What's up everyone, and welcome to Robeytech, where I, Justin Robey, aka Roby1 Kenobi, are gonna talk tech with you wonderful people. Oh, and guess what? We're gonna build PCs too. Huzzah! Now, today we are taking a look at the NZXT H1 case, this latest case offering from NZXT, and we're going to build it, review it, and test it. That's right, all in a single video. No multiple build guides. You can just watch this one video and it's gonna be awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready because this is Robeytech. The H1 is NZXT's first small form factor case, and honestly a welcome addition having a case manufacturer like NZXT entering the arena. Now, I took my time getting this video out. Why, you ask? Well, because this is a case review and a step-by-step build guide all rolled into one, and I wanted to take all the data from all over the internet and give you the ideal build to put in this little tiny case. Now, for those of you who don't know how this works, this video is meant to be as a guide that you can build along with us. While you're building it, we'll be building it. In the description below, you will find a table of contents that allows you to easily move from section to section in this video. So make sure you check it out because you can move back and forth as you install different parts. Now, we will also put links to every part we used in the build along with the supplies we used as well. Because if you want to build this build, just check the links in the description below because every part is down there. Now, today we're going to be covering a couple of things. Number one, the NZXT H1 case and an overview of this awesome case. The ideal parts to put into your H1 and why. What you need to put together the NZXT H1, a step-by-step build guide for the H1, how to install Windows, and how to get your RAM timings. Plus, we're going to do a light bench test and give you our closing thoughts and what we thought of the build overall. We want this to be the definitive video if you get an NZXT H1. So let us know in the comments below if you think we missed the mark or if there was something you think we should have added. Now, while you're down there, be sure to slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a new video. But for now, let's get started. Now, let's talk about the NZXT H1 stats and a little overview of this case. Number one, it's a 13.6 liter case, so it's nice and small. When you compare it to this is the Dan A4 SFX V4.1. This is a 7.2 liter case. But in terms of footprint between this and this actually takes up less room on your desk. Now, this has a toolless, oops, let me put this back down there. This has a toolless design with the only screws being included are the ones you actually need to install the motherboard. That's right, it only comes with 4 screws. For those of you who don't know, this is only sold as a bundle. You can't actually buy the case separately. What's included is a PCIe 3 riser card, which, if you're a later adopter, NZXT will actually be including a PCIe 4 riser card, just like the Dan A4 SFX V4.1. This also includes a 140 milliliter AIO with a pump speed of up to 4,000 RPM. And it also includes a PWM fan, which you could replace if you wanted to with something like a Noctua fan. It also includes a 650 watt gold certified SFX PSU. Now, this is a one-off for NZXT because they usually don't make this. The price is a bit steep though. It's $349.99, but is it steep? When you consider the cost of the components for this separately, $120 for a PSU, $100 for a 140 milliliter AIO, and $20 for a riser cable, that means that the cost of the case itself is actually only $109. The other thing that is super awesome about this is that NZXT included a warranty that's 3 years on the case and the AIO, and a 10-year warranty on the PSU. Now, you have 2 options of color. You've got matte white or matte black, but outside of that, there are no other customization options, like no option to remove tempered glass. But I will tell you this, after checking out a number of the reviews, painting this case if you wanted to is actually pretty easy. Just by taking it apart, I actually had considered before even shooting this, making it Robeytech colors by making the black grill in the back actually be red. Would have been pretty cool, but we wanted to make sure we shot the video on time and I didn't want Brian to beat me up. Now, for I/O, up in the top, which you see up here, we've got the power button, we've got 2 USB 3.2 ports. One is a Gen 1 Type A, the other is a Gen 2 Type C, and a single headphone jack. Now, the case comes included with a headphone splitter, so you can plug in a mic and a pair of headphones separately. There's been some concern about actually only having one USB 3.2 Gen A port. I agree. I mean, given that it uses the same connector, that makes a lot of sense, but it just looks so clean. And honestly, I'm not as bothered as most people in terms of being able to just plug things into the bottom or even just using a USB hub off the bottom and having it on the side. Sorry, it doesn't really bother me as much. When I chose the parts for this build, like I told you early on in the video, I want to make sure that I took all of the data I got from the reviews from people like Optimum Tech and Hardware Canucks and Jay's 2 cents, and take all of the data that I kind of learned from them and collate into something that was like, what is the best, most powerful build that is optimized for the H1 specifically? Now I'm targeting 1440p or a higher frame rate, and I didn't want to mess with GPU or CPU undervolting. There are some limits with what you can put in the case given the 140mm AIO, and the case also only supports cards that are 305 by 128mm, so about 12 inches, and taller cards that are 256 by 145mm, or a 2.5 tall graphics card slot. Make sure I want to note there, I've noticed a lot of people from the UK and other people are watching, so notice I put millimeters and inches in there because I am a good world citizen. So when taking all of the above into account, here are the parts I'm putting into the H1 for what I would consider the ideal, most powerful build for this case. I would just strictly say this case at the top end is really made for 1440p gaming. I would not recommend doing 4K gaming in this unless we started to replace parts, and even then I think there's a lot of experimentation in terms of where I might put potential additional fans or where I might actually put like a more powerful AIO to help make something like that happen. So this is what I consider the ideal build caveat for what I can do stock with the H1 case. Now, like we said, check the description, check the links in the description below, and remember, all of the parts we're going to list here are going to be included in those descriptions. Now remember, we don't need an AIO or a PSU, as those are included, and we won't be taking these into account when we chose the part, so we won't be listing those, because when you spent the $349.99 on this, it's already included. Now for the CPU, we chose this Ryzen 9 3900X, which is a 12-core, 24-thread CPU. Now, you might be asking, Roby, 3900X, it's got AIO cooling, why not a 3950? Well, honestly, I don't think 140mm radiator, and specifically some of the stuff that we've seen stats-wise, it doesn't run too well in this case. It is capable, but people start thinking about undervolting and all those other things just to make sure it's ideal. So I went to the 3900X because it's just a bit safer and you don't have to do a lot to just make it work out of the box. Now, given the rumors of a 3000 series NVIDIA cards using PCIe Gen 4, I needed to make sure that I had a platform to support it. And I also wanted to make sure that the PC was more versatile. So that is why I chose AMD over Team Blue and Intel. Now, if you wanted to go Intel, you could do the 9700K or the 9900K, as I think this PC will have no issue given the cooling power and cooling capacity of the 140mm AIO to be able to handle it. For the motherboard, I used the Gigabyte X570 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi. Couple of reasons. A, it's got a really quality VRM solution. It supports USB 3.2 Gen 2 for those of us who are wanting to use those new faster drive like the Western Digital and the Seagate, which if you want to see my video and review on that, you can check that out right here. It's also got a great thermal solution for the chipset and PCIe Gen 4 M.2 drive that we're going to be putting inside of this. For RAM, I did the G.Skill Trident Z Neo, specifically for AMD Ryzen, in 32 gig. Now this is a 2x16 DIMM kit running at CL16. Now, a couple reasons. Why not Corsair Dominator? Why not Vengeance RGB Pro? Well, basically you have a height clearance of 44mm on the RAM, so Corsair Dominator and Vengeance RGB Pro is out, and 3600 megahertz is ideal for Ryzen, and CL16 is good timings. So this, plus knowing it was going to fit, is key to choosing this particular memory set. Now for the GPU, we went with the NVIDIA 2080 Super Founders Edition. It's great for 1440p gaming and gives some headroom for overclocking if you want. Now we had noticed some reviewers undervolting their GPU to make it work, and we want this build to straightforward, so we wanted to make sure it just works, so that's why we didn't do a 2080 Ti. And the other thing too is some people are probably gonna ask, Roby, why not a 5700 XT or why not a 2070 Super? Well here, right now, I've learned this from all my other ones, here are some stats specifically on 1440p performance of the 2080 Super and why I went with this card versus a 5700 XT or a 2070 Super. Again, if you wanna drop the price a bit, completely okay. But I was looking for the best frame rate with the given thermals and ideal cooling situation. So looking at the numbers for Assassin's Creed, Far Cry 5, and Battlefield 5, And I have more, but that isn't the point of this video, isn't to show you a bunch of stats. But you can see that the 2080 Super is a clear choice, especially for higher refresh rate, low response rate, 144 Hz monitors, like what I'm going to use. And I wanted to limit what you might have to sacrifice to hit that high refresh rate and still have the game look absolutely awesome. And I wanted that sacrifice to be absolutely minimal. For hard drives, I had to choose, obviously, PCIe Gen 4 since I had the support for that, so I went with the Seagate 520 from FireCuda 520 from Seagate. It's a PCIe Gen 4 at 500 gigabytes, and I want to make sure that I showed every aspect of installing a hard drive in this case, so my game drive is actually an 860 EVO from Samsung at 2 terabytes, which is great for a game drive and a scratch drive. Now, before we get into our step-by-step guide, the cool thing about the NZXT is that if you don't want to build it yourself, you actually have the option of using NZXT's build site, which is a pre-built configuration up on their site for 2K. It's called the NZXT H1 Mini PC. You can check that out. You can check out the specs here. Actually, we have them up here on the screen, and you can see it's slightly less powerful than mine, using a 2070 Super and a 9900K. Also, if you're looking to build a more expandable PC and are looking for a great step-by-step guide on how to build it and what the parts may be, you can check out that guide right here. So, guys, I think that's it. We got all the parts. If you don't want to build it, you know where to go. And honestly, I think it's just time to get started building. What do you think? So what do you need to build this PC? Well, first and foremost, you need a nice, clean surface. Try not to do it in a cluttered area like a sandbox or potentially in a junkyard. I prefer someplace that's nice and open, where I like what I have set up here. I've got my nice clean builder's mat. I've got an anti-static floor. Now, if you are concerned about static, you can always get one of these bad boys right here. This is an anti-static wristband. No, we aren't The Verge. We actually have a real one. And the way that this basically works is you can take this and you can clip this to a plugged-in power supply, and you can put this around your ankle or around your wrist. Given where I'm at right now, I don't necessarily need to use this, but it is an option, and you can find these in things like this handy-dandy iFixit kit that I've got here right now. You will also need a Phillips screwdriver, preferably magnetic, like I use here in the iFixit kit. I cannot, just like Jay's 2 cents, I cannot stress how awesome these things absolutely are. But again, if you're not going to build a ton of PCs, it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest in something like this. But the only thing that's really cool about iFixit kits is it also allows me to do things like fix iPhones and all those other things. Not that I would ever do that. I'm just stuck with building PCs, which I'm cool with. NZXT actually gives you in the box of accessories zip ties. No, these are not tweezers, these are zip ties. Thank you, Verge. We're going to continue to make that joke forever. These aren't necessary. When we get inside the build, you kind of see why, but I thought it was cool of NZXT to actually include these, so these are zip ties if you want to basically use that. And then finally, I'd use a knife. Knives for basically opening all your packages. Something sharp. Please don't hurt yourself with it. I use a very small knife because I have a tendency to hurt myself. Finally, and I'm doing this off of basic feedback that I've gotten from reviewers, is you want some Goo Gone or clean wipes. I'm using these Clorox disinfecting wipes. Basically, there's paper stickers that are all throughout the build to kind of help you figure out how to build it. In the case that you can use Goo Gone or clean wipes, we actually have descriptions to that stuff in the links below. Goo Gone I would recommend probably more than necessarily these clean wipes. I just forgot to go to the hardware store and pick some up. So guys, that's what we need. Let's go and get started building. Okay. So let's get started. What I said really early on, this is a toolless design. In fact, you don't need any screwdriver to take this PC apart. In the very back here, I'll let you get a shot of that. The very back here, you can see I can just pull this apart like so. It's got these cool, super cool, look at these pegs that just kind of hold things on, which is nice. And I talked about, you can actually see here, there's little screws here. You can unscrew this, and if you want to paint this, which some people have done, it's just nice and easy to paint. So we'll set that off to the side. Then we'll turn this around to the other side. Same thing for the tempered glass right here at the bottom. You can see like the beveled edge, just pull down from the pull out from the bottom, comes off. Again, same cool screw design. You are seeing it. I've already peeled and taken the sticker off. Some people complained about taking the paper sticker off of the front. I did not have an issue. I might have gotten a later version from NZXT, but just in case, just an FYI, that might be someplace where you actually need to use the Goo Gone. Now, this just slides up. Understand this is kind of a little bit tough, so don't be afraid to get a little physical with it. As Bitwit like to says, screw with confidence. In my case, pull with confidence. It will come off. Just takes a little bit of time. It's got these nice little trays. Just slides right up, like so. Like so. Okay. Like so. There we go. Try not to hit my own camera. There we go. Now, just showing you right here, again, these are those cool little trays, so it makes it really easy to kind of come up from here. One thing that you're not seeing in here, but I'll show you about, is you actually get this cool little white box. We already took ours out, but that little white box is sitting right here in the front. And what you do is you just pull this out. This actually has all your accessories that you need for the build. Inside of here was the mounting brackets for the AIO. It also had that cool headphone jack, so all that stuff was inside of this. You just have to take that out. The reason it says US is because this has a US power supply. If you're from the UK or somewhere else like that, if yours doesn't say US, that might be why. Okay, now we're just going to kind of prepare the case. The case is kind of stripped, but before I do that, I wanted to show you real quick inside of here. I know, just to give you guys some insight, we'll get to building here in a second, but this actually has magnetic dust filters that just kind of come right off, which is nice. People might ask, oh, this looks like it might restrict airflow. I'll be super clear right now. From the testing that has actually happened, you only get maybe a degree or two difference versus not having these on. So given we want to probably protect from dust, I would not remove these. That's my recommendation. I would just keep them on. All you got to do is simply, and I'll just show you from the side here, all you simply is just pull out like this, and then they just simply snap back into place. And there's nice little guardrails there that keeps that from doing that. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so just walking through the case real quick, just to let people know what's going in here. It says right here, I think something that was really cool about NZXT is they actually put a lot of stickers all over things to kind of help you know what you need to do. For instance, it says lift here to release. This is a little cover. This is where you're going to do all your cable management. So you can just pop that back on, and everything in here just uses a cool little toolless design, so it's nice and easy to kind of put back together. Here on the back it says, you know, things like remove screw pointed by arrows. So it's just showing you, hey, here's our arrows. This is actually where I'm going to remove the screws. But the other thing too is I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and take this out and kind of remove the bag and kind of get everything ready. So take that out. But I think that was a cool thing by NZXT, is like they're trying to do a really good job. They're trying to do a really good job of helping you just kind of build in this case. Now the other thing that's super cool is, I don't know if you can get a shot of this, Brian, which you probably can, is you can see that they've actually kind of cable managed this entire thing already, making it really easy. In fact, one of the things that's really crazy about this case, and you'll see this as we get into the build itself, is this is going to be super quick for us to build because all of these cables just kind of are ready to go and are easily managed. Same thing over here. It's like everything's just kind of tied together and all the cables are ready to go. And then right here, your PCIe Gen 3 riser cable in this case is right where it's going to need to hit for the motherboard. So we're going to go ahead and get the case ready. But one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go and try and peel these without getting sticker stuff on it. I heard some people had problems, but we're hoping that we're not going to do that. I know there's also one on the pump itself, which we'll see. I'll take those off. Ooh, okay, I didn't see anything on that. There might be a little bit of cleanup there. Okay, here we go. Just gonna try this one. Let's see what happens. Get a nice view of that. So my recommendation, if you're gonna remove these stickers, just do it slowly. Slowly. Doosily. Take it slowly. So slow. Slow. I'm sure we're going to speed this up because this would be the most entertaining comment. Entertaining content. Yeah, over 4 hours of your video was just you peeling the sticker off, Robey. Well, anyway, we just want to make sure there's no goo gone, right? I forgot the goo gone, so I got to do this right. Oh, look at how clean that is. Schnabel. You might complain about my content, but look, I have no gooeys on mine. Take that, Bitwit and everybody else who had like gooeys, Hardware Canucks, they had like all gooeys everywhere. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up this right here. So we're gonna grab this and get our screws off. Oh, they said these are hard, by the way. So don't be afraid to unscrew with, ooh, ooh. So I'm gonna use a bigger screwdriver, just given the size of these screws, and there we go. Those, just so you know guys, these are harder screws, so if you are using a smaller screwdriver, which I have done, make sure you use a size 2 Phillips screwdriver, just to make sure you don't strip the screws, because that would be bad. Man, I don't know if NZXT should have done them tight. That's a little bit of feedback right there, but think of it as a warning. Already, it was worth you watching the video just to know that right there. So there we go, we get that nice open. Again, inside of here, we got our NZXT pump. It says here, position tubes on the outward before closing. This is 140 millimeter AIO. It's got up to 4,000, it says 4,000 RPM in terms of pump speed. We're gonna try and do another slow peel here. No gooeyes. This video is gonna get 45 million views just for my sticker removal skills. Okay, so for the most part, I just wanna kind of prep the case, make sure I had everything in. It's one of the things I like to do. I'm gonna leave this in here because now we're gonna actually build the motherboard real quick, but I just wanna make sure the case is completely prepped to go from there. Again, pretty easy in terms of putting this together, but we're ready to go. Okay, next step, let's get our motherboard out. Motherboard assembly, which is what is next. Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna open up our motherboard. So this is the X570i Aorus Pro Wi-Fi. Ooh. Oh, I love the new smell of hardware in the evening. Now I'll go through real quick what's included in the box and what you're gonna kind of need for this. So there is our motherboard. Absolutely beautiful. Now what you're gonna need, given what we're installing in today's build, is you're going to need these, and these are SATA power. These are your SATA cables, not your SATA power cables. These are your SATA cables. This allows us to hook up our 860 EVO drive, so you're going to need one of those. You are also going to need, potentially, looks like it's got a thermal pad, so we'll have that. And then everything else, just so you know what else is in here, this is actually your Wi-Fi antenna. I'm not going to be installing Wi-Fi. It's built into the card, but if you wanted to have Wi-Fi, that's what that is. And then this right here is a RGB header if you wanted to have RGB. And then the only other thing you're going to need is your manual. So make sure you have your manual. Even though this is going to be such a straightforward build, always a good idea to have this easily accessible so you can see if there's anything that you need to look at to figure things out. So we'll get that off to the side, kind of put this out of the way, and let's get to the next part of the build. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our CPU. So let's grab our CPU from over here. There we go. Brand new CPU, open. Oh. Wow, that was terrible. I might get fired from 343. That was a little crackly. There we go. Okay, so if you've not seen my other video, just a little bit of insight in here. This is the Ryzen 3900X CPU. When you are grabbing a CPU, try not to touch the IHS on the top. Try and grab from the sides. Also, the pins in the back. Somebody asked me, can I lick the pins? No, don't lick the pins. Don't touch the pins. I mean, you can if you want to, but I would not recommend it, nor would I recommend licking it and then sticking it into the CPU case. To get to the CPU to install it, you see this little arm right here? What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this little small arm, grab it from the side, just open it up just like that. There's two arrows. The first arrow is on the CPU. It's that little gold arrow right there. The little gold arrow right here. And right here on the board, this little arrow right here. So you're gonna see that little arrow. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your CPU, you're gonna make sure that those arrows align just like that. So that arrow's over that arrow. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna close it just like that. And voila, the power is in the CPU. Okay, now we're gonna peel off the sticker. Oh, that peel, I love it. Oh, just makes me happy. Oh, there we go. Who's happy? I know you're happy after hearing the peel. Look at that, oh, plastic gone. A little bit more plastic right here. There we go right there. Now, if you have issues with peeling, and you get one of those iFixit kits like I have, the cool thing about it is they actually have little devices to help you if you don't have nails like myself. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install our PCIe Gen 4 M.2 drive. We're gonna be installing this right here, but real quick, just to kind of go over the different parts that are on the motherboard. This is your AM4 CPU bracket, AM4 CPU socket, my bad. Here, these are gonna be where your two RAM DIMMs are. Right here, this is your front panel I/O, so this is where we're going to install our front panel connectors. This is your SATA. This is where we're going to actually connect your 860 EVO drive. This is USB your USB 3.0 installer, and then these are fan headers. But as we kind of talk about different stuff that you'll see me install, these are the different things that I'm going to reference when you see this. The other thing is this is your 24-pin ATX power, and then up here in the corner is your CPU EPS connectors. So this is basically what gives your CPU plenty of power. So that's what's actually going to be plugged in there. So when you see me reference those, I just want to make sure if you want to go back and look at the motherboard, you have a kind of a good understanding of what everything that is on here. So, and there are some other things on here, but not important for this build because we're not going to be doing RGB or anything like that. So next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take this off. This is actually the active cooler for your 570 chipset and also what actively cools your M.2 drive. And we'll show you those M.2s here in a minute. There we go. And again, you want to have, I think these are actually captive screws, so we won't, these shouldn't come out all the way. There we go, like that. Oh, no, they're not captive. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. Now this is actually where we're going to install our M.2 drive. You can see right here it says M.2. You see two different little slots right here. These are actually, this is for like 2260 and this is for 2280. This is 60 millimeters and 80 millimeters. Most M.2s are always 80 millimeters, so that's why you see this kind of already pre-installed ready there. All we're going to do is unscrew that, like so. Do not lose this screw, it's tiny. You can see how tiny that screw is. You do not want to lose that screw. Now, we're going to take our M.2 drive, take our FireCuda drive, pop that open like so. Thank you to Seagate for hooking us up with this. Look at this little beast right here. There you go. It's in a nice little wrapper. Okay, so again, just going to unwrap this. There's a little tear thing right there. And then I'm going to take this out. It's going to come out. Trying not to touch the parts, like so. Now you see right here, there's a little slot right here. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to shake. You line it up with the little bar, slide it in like this, push it in, make sure it's nice and it has a little springboard. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the screw. Make sure it don't over tighten, you just want to make sure it just gets to the point where it stops. And from here, I'm just going to put this back on top of it because it's actively cooled, like so. Like so. And then we're going to take these. Whoopsie. We're going to take these. We're going to drop them. I would just slip them in here already. And the cool thing about this is it's just easy to line up, so it just makes it really nice and easy to kind of pop on there. So our M.2 is installed and we're good to go there. Now, one thing I was going to mention real quick, if you look here on the back, you'll actually notice there's another M.2 slot. Because of how this motherboard and this case are, you actually, this is really close and there's already a heat issue. You could risk putting another M.2 in here. I'm not going to, but if you wanted to throw like a 1 terabyte, I would definitely not put a PCIe Gen 4 in there, but I would, I would not recommend not putting another M.2, but there is an option in there. It is in the back, just as an FYI. Okay, let's install RAM. That is next up, our RAM, the RAM. So this is our G.Skill Trident Royal Z. Again, it's that ideal height for installing on the motherboard. Now, on this motherboard, I've talked about this if you watch my other build guide video, some have 2 slots, and some only the bottom one or the top one works. In this case, both of these work, so you're gonna unclip both of these. So when you look here, right here, you'll see a little slot in the RAM, and you'll see a little slot right here. You wanna make sure this slot aligns with this slot. And then all you wanna do is you just wanna line it up like this, slip it in, push down, make sure you get a nice solid click. Same thing with the second slot, the second DIMM. And again, we're putting 32 gigs in here. Okay, and boom. That is our entire motherboard. You know, the funny thing about this, guys, is with me just finishing what I just finished, most of the build is actually done, just given how much is already kind of installed on the in the PC case. Okay, so we're going to start with here in the back. We're just going to kind of prepare this. What we're going to do is open that up, get all of this extra stuff out of the way, like so. It comes out this way, like so. Now, what we're going to do is how the motherboard is down here in the bottom. You'll actually see this is where the I/O shield goes. If you did not have an I/O shield, that's where you would pop it in. In this case, the IO shield is actually included. So the board itself is going to go like this with the IO shield pointing towards the bottom. So you're just going to slip it in like this, and there are already standoffs on here for all of that stuff. So you're just going to kind of slip it in like that. And then down here at the bottom, you will see it kind of pop in just like so. Now it's time for the only 4 little screws that they included with the case. Usually when you get a case, it's got a ton more screws in that. That's not to say it doesn't have screws. It doesn't have screws for the all-in-one cooler, but it does have, these are the only like little small screws, so it's worth mentioning that you only need 4 screws to actually do this install, and this is only for the motherboard. So there are 4 holes here. I'm gonna show you where they are. There's one in the corner there, one in the corner there, one in the corner there, and one in the corner over there are all our screw holes that we're gonna put it in. So we're just gonna put this like this. Basically make sure those are all lined up like they're supposed to be. FYI, you're kind of in an awkward angle. And for these screws, you don't have to worry about tightening them too much. You just want to make sure they're just tight enough. And again, we're going to do this one in this corner. Make sure that I put the screw on, the screwdriver. There we go. Help if I got that in the hole. That's what she said. Make sure it just goes tight, not too tight. There we go. Last screw goes in this last corner right here. Luckily, I have the thin iFixit. You got like a bigger screwdriver, that'd be hard. Okay, and just like that, now your motherboard is installed. Okay, for the next step, what we're gonna wanna do is, because we're using an AM4 bracket, we're not using an Intel. So if you were going to use Intel, this is actually what you're looking at right here. This is actually set up for Intel already. So this is the LGA 1151, or basically any Intel bracket right here. The thermal paste is pre-applied, but because we're using AM4 and we're using a AMD processor, we're actually going to replace the bracket here. And the way that works is you just pull like that, and this comes off. If you were going to use an Intel card, you'd have to use this back plate. This would have to be installed normally before we install the motherboard, but because we're not installing an Intel, we're not showing you how to do that. I'm sure, hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. If you have any questions, you can go on our Discord channel. I'd love to basically have you help you know what to do there. So we're gonna get that on, and then we're gonna take our AM4, our AMD bracket, and it goes like this. So the screws right here, these little screw holes go up, so higher up, so they're further away from the thermal paste, like so, and it just slips on just like that. There you go. Okay, and then what you're going to do is inside of here, just showing you what you need here. So these are the only 4 things that I'm going to need to install the pump on the CPU. So what you're going to do is you're basically going to take this like so. You're going to take these. What I do is I slide them on like that, and you're going to just kind of start the screw process like that, not too tight. Same thing on the other side. And make sure that see how these are an L bracket like this? You're going to make sure that it's kind of out versus in, so you can see how I've got it set up there. It's kind of more out. So you're going to put that like this. Slide that in like that. And what you're going to do is now you can see there's these little clips on the motherboard bracket. And you're going to slide them on those little clips. So you just clip it on just like that. Okay? And then you just slowly tighten on each side that you're all clipped in. Slowly tighten on each side until you kind of hands, and then after that you can grab your screwdriver and finish the job. So there we go. Now I'm at kind of a tight spot. What you do is you take your screwdriver, tighten it down, and you want to keep tightening, and you want to switch back and forth between the two until it just, you don't want to tighten too tight, but you want to know until it'll just stop. It's just basically when you know you're done. And there you go. Now your pump is on. Now the next part is let's install all of our front panel connectors and all of our connectors in general. pretty easy from here since most of these are pre-wired. So just to go through what connectors you do have here, so you are aware. So we'll talk about these and what they are. So what we have here is so these are the connectors you're going to be using. This one right here is your HD audio connector. This is your USB 3.0 connector. This is your front panel connector, which, hey, thank you NZXT for making this just a single connector, which is super nice. And then finally, you've got a USB-C 3.2 connector, but the thing is that this motherboard doesn't have a USB 3.2 slot, so we are not going to be using that for this build. So we'll tuck that kind of away, like so. Now let's talk about where each one of these cables go. For USB 3.2, turn this like this so you can see it. This goes in, and you'll see a little notch right here, and there's a little notch right here. You're going to plug that in, and you want to make sure you go straight up and down for that, so you do not bend any pins, and it should just click in just like that. Okay, so there's your USB 3.2. So for front panel audio, it's kind of in a weird spot. What you're going to do is you're going to take this around like this, and it actually goes, you see this little white spot right here? If you look on here, so right here is our front panel connector. You look right here, you can actually see this is the front panel, and you'll see there's a missing slot, right, a missing little hole right here, and there's also another missing pin right there. You just want to line that up with the missing pin. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that, you're going to plug it in just like that. This goes in just like that. It should be pretty easy. Just like that. And there you go. There's your front panel audio. The next one, which is crazy, and this is going to be hard for you guys to see, right here is your front panel connector. There's another, just like on the HD audio, there's a little missing pin on there. You just want to make sure that your missing pin is in the right place. I'm just going to pop it in. So you're just going to put it right there, push it down just like that. It'll cover just like so. And there you go. Front panel connectors are connected. Next thing we're going to do is a CPU. It's right here. Your little CPU, and this is awesome. It's like nice and easily routed. You put these two together. Just pops in right there. There's our power. This is your pump header. And you see this little gray right here. We're gonna take this little pump header and we're gonna put it right here. And you can see there's little two slots and the little two plastic slots. Just gonna put it right like that. And then now we have this little header. This one is going to go clear across the board. I'll turn it around for you. There's a little fan connector right there. This is just going to go right down as best you can, right there. Okay, now our motherboard has one more power connection and then we're done. And this is our power connector. It's our 24-pin power connector. You can see there's a, down here, I'll get some light on it. Here's our power connector. And then there's a little clip. So if you see this little clip right here, oh my gosh. This little clip right here, see that little clip? What you're gonna do is you're going to line that up just like this and push it in. And there you go. And then
I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna put my foot in your ass if you say and then again.
And then comes the easy part. Put all these down here like so. Just kind of push the cables out of the way. No, sorry. Push the cables out of the way like so. And then we're gonna push this down like this. And we're just gonna close this up and close this like this. There's that one. And then we have one more. And now all we have left is to put our GPU in. Sorry, one more connector I forgot about, but we can do that from the side. Over here is our riser connector. So we're gonna take this little plastic blue thing off. You're just gonna lift it up like this. So we're gonna take this little cable, put it out of the way. Take this little hand, unclip that. Take this, you can see that there's a little slot right there, a little slot right there. This goes just like this, just push right in. Boom, connected. Now we're going to install our our 2.5-inch drive. So we're gonna take this out, open that up, and you can see inside here, there's little slots for our 2.5-inch drive. So what you do is you take this like so, and it's nice and toolless, just gonna slip it in like that. Just push it all the way in, like that. Now, we had that cable that we had you take out before, so I'll show you how to put that on. Take this cable. You want the one that looks like this, it's not bent, so they're nice and straight. Okay, now what we're gonna do, you're gonna take this one right here, you're going to plug that in right there, just like that. And then, in here, just kind of extra, these are your SATA power, and there's a little L. Do you see that little lip right there? Like that. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna show this like this, and you can also see on here, put a bit up here, also see up here, see how there's a little L there? So you just wanna make sure this little L lines up with that little L. Sorry, this little L lines up with that little L, like it does, and you just push it in, power. And there you go, power is installed. And it only goes one way, guys, so it's not hard. You just shove that extra cable in there. And then the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have this come around, run it through here. Have this come around, run it through here. Like that. So you're gonna run this, you're gonna run that through like this. Then you can see this cable, like so. Make sure it's up nice and straight. Now, when you look down here, just like our front panel connector, you see way down there, those are your SATA connectors. You can see that they also have an L. See how this one has an L? Just gonna shove it down like that. It clips in, so just basically the metal part here just has to go on the top, up towards the RAM. Just push it in. You'll hear it get a good click. And there you go. Okay, now the motherboard is done. Everything's ready to go. Now we have to install our GPU, which if you're at this point, you're in good shape. Everything else is done. We've got it all connected. I showed you how to connect everything up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our awesome Smexy 2080 Super. There you go. Let's get this out of the way because we don't want to block the 2080 Super. There we go. Ready to go. Take that out. A little bit of that. Get that off to the side. Now what we're going to do here, the first thing we're going to do is set that down. And then we're going to unscrew our little thumb screws down here. These are what's going to hold in our card. And remember, this will do up to a 12-inch card and 2.5-inch GPU, 2.5-inch in terms of GPU height. One thing I will tell you is some of you are probably thinking, can I throw a 2080 Strix in here? You can. It does fit. It will get scratched up, but it does actually fit in this case. If you want more details on that, you can actually watch Kyle's video. He actually did that. So, but we are going to be sticking in 2080 Super because, again, we just know this is the ideal card for this. So, okay, you're just going to line this up at the bottom. If you see these little slots here, just kind of push it up like that, and then it slips right in like so. Okay, now we're going to take our screws, screw it down, and the last thing after we do this, put our screws in, is choose our power connectors. This one uses a 6-pin and an 8-pin. You have two of them here. No idea why they gave you two. I don't know why they would do that, but they did. So thank you for the gracious extra in this NZXT. You're gonna take one of these, you're gonna make one 3, and then you're gonna take the other one and turn it into 4. The 3-pin, if you wanna get in on that. 3-pin, take the 3-pin and plug that in right there. Then you're gonna connect these two together. You're gonna make a 4-pin. You're gonna plug it in like, I know you can't see this, but it is here. And we'll show this afterwards what it looks like when it's done, but it's just plug that in, just like that. And then you can see right here, they're both connected. Okay, and that is it. Now what we're gonna do shove all our little parts together like that, and then using this cool little tray that they gave me, put this in like that, and then you just pop it closed. And then look, it looks like it just looks so clean. It's so nice. And there we go. We now have a fully built NZXT H1. Okay, let's get it back together and turn it on. So there we go, all hooked up, turned on. We're gonna see if we see any lights or anything like that. Looks like we're good. It's on, it's on. I see fans blowing. Do I see a post signal? I see a post signal. There we go, okay, insert BD mode. Okay, so now let's talk about, so PC's up, it's boots, we're good. You can see right here on the screen that we're actually booting right now. So we're gonna take our Windows boot media. If you want to actually make one of these, you can actually make one of these online. You can search for creating Windows boot media for a YouTube video. I'll put a link to a description for another video down below, so if you want to know how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that in here like so, and then I'm going to restart the PC. Now, a couple things that you want to do before we get in too far into this is we're going to load into our BIOS, and you can do that when it pops up here in a second. You'll actually see BIOS. Oops. So there we go. Okay, a couple of things I'm checking. 960 EVO, so we're seeing that right there. So this right here is our, oh, apparently it was a 1 terabyte. So there we go, there's our 960 EVO 1 terabyte. And then over here you can see right here this is my FireCuda SSD drive. So it looks like my SSD is in here, and so I have both drives. Right now, for the sake of installing Windows, you do not, I repeat, do not want to enable XMP or anything like that until after you have installed your operating system. So because you want to make sure that right now it is as stable as humanly possible. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to save and exit, yes, and then we should hit F12 as soon as it pops up. We're going to restart. We're going to hit F12. There we go. And you're going to choose, you see two options. You see Microsoft 10, we're going to choose partition 1, and then here now we're into Windows setup. We're gonna run Windows setup 64-bit. It's gonna load up like so. Now, if you're using the exact same setup as me, you're gonna wanna install your OS on your 500 gig drive. That's gonna be our OS drive, and for critical applications, and games are gonna go on our 2 terabyte drive. So go ahead and hit next, install now. Setup is starting. Wait for that. Just take a second. Now, code. I'm not going to show you what my code is, but I'm going to put in a code because I have a code. You don't get to see my code, but you're seeing it blocked out. So you're going to put in your code that you have for Windows. There we go. You're going to go ahead and accept your licensing terms. And then I'm going to go to custom install, which is the bottom one. You can see I have 2 drives that are unallocated. So what you're going to do is, because I know my FireCuda drive is 500 gigs, that's how I know this is the drive I want to install to. This is my SSD. I'm going to select the drive 1 for unallocated space and hit new, hit apply, hit OK. And then I'm going to choose the one that says primary. These don't touch recovery, system, MSR, or these other ones. Just choose the one that hits primary and hit next. And then let Windows do its thing. Installing Windows, yo! Yeah! Windows install live! It's the best! Okay, so Windows is now installed. We're now waiting for this to go. You can go ahead and remove your boot stuff. You don't need this anymore, so we're going to remove the boot things real quick. That is not necessary. Now we're just basically getting ready. Now the way that I'm going to set this up is just for me specifically, just to do something quick. And this is just kind of show you some tips and tricks that I do when I set up something. When you set up Windows yourself, you have the option of doing a Microsoft account or doing just what's called an offline account. I always recommend a Microsoft account. Obviously, I work for Microsoft. I know where the data is. There's a bunch of things that come with the benefits of having a Microsoft account, but we'll show you that here in a second. So it's popping up here. So we'll walk you through the setup real quick. Okay, so here we go. Windows is starting up. Just a moment. Just a moment. What was that from? Oh yeah, Office Space. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with the region. Is this right? Yes, I am in the United States. If you're in a different place, don't choose United States. You have your options for keyboards. I'm going to choose US. I am not going to put in a second keyboard layout, but if you were multilingual, like for instance, if you watched Linus Tech Tips, like a lot of times I'll have a Canadian layout or another layout, this is where you could add it. I'm not going to do that. Now it's going to do some important setup stuff. Okay, so here we go. We're going to set up for personal use, set up for organization. Just so you know, I am installing Windows Pro. If you have home, you may not see some of this. I'm going to show personal use. This is where you would create a Microsoft account. I am not going to show you how to do that. I'm going to create an offline account. If you want to create a Microsoft account, I recommend it. But given what I am doing, and I don't know what I'm going to do with this PC quite yet, I'm setting it up for a non-Microsoft account. This is just telling you all the stuff. Hit limited experience, and I'm just going to put in here Robeytech. Boom. I'm not going to create a password because I just want it to boot and be ready. Do I want this is just telling you if you had this across this, if you wanted to have it like work on your mobile device and all that sort of stuff, you could do that. I'm not going to do that because I don't care. If you want to use Cortana, she's pretty awesome. Not as good as Alexa right now. I'm going to decline that. And then this is all your privacy settings. And this is up to you in terms of what you're doing. I keep it all on. I trust Microsoft. I work for Microsoft. It makes sense. It is up to you if you want to not turn this on. I'm going to just choose the defaults to get into this to show you what to do. So we're going to accept, and we're going to go through the little startup right here.
2,000 years later.
Almost there. And we're done. Okay. Okay, so setting up for Windows, key things that I'm going to do. I'm just going to talk to you through a couple of tips and tricks. Number one, first and foremost, once you kind of get into Windows, and if it worked, okay, there we go. I am just one of those people who likes to stick the thing back there. Whoop, it's going to install our driver. You're going to might see it flash. Don't panic about this stuff. It's just getting everything ready as things set up. Adding your hard drive. If you hit the Windows key, type in hard disk. You'll see this create and format hard disk partitions. Click on that. And you will see, now you'll see the other drive that has not been used. Go ahead and hit new simple volume. Next, next. I'm gonna assign a drive letter, and I always call it games, because that's what this is for. And then I hit finish. So now I have my second drive enabled and ready. Once it's ready, hit Windows key and E. That'll bring up the file explorer. You can see this games. I like to rename this one OS just to remind myself what is going here. You can do OS or you can name it Windows, either one of those. Now, just to walk you through some tips here. What I have a tendency to install on the C drive is just the stuff that I'm going to use, like Adobe Photoshop, things like that. I do not install games on the C drive. I install most of my applications and things on the D drive. You do not, like as you get paging files, especially with M.2s and stuff like that, as it gets full, you can actually reduce the speed of your drive. So you want to try and limit what you install and put most of the other things on the secondary drive. If you want to add more space, add another M.2 or add another SSD if you wanted to do that. So that takes care of that. The next thing you want to do, and some people say this, some people don't, I always say, make sure you run your updates and securities and make sure you install all of your drivers and make sure you get all of your updates. That's how you keep things from getting viruses. And then finally, the last thing is you want to search for the NVIDIA GeForce Experience. What this is this just automatically updates your drivers. You hit download now and run. Once this is done, then that'll actually keep you up to date for your NVIDIA drivers. The last thing you want to do is you want to install what's called Drive Booster Pro 7. So look up Drive. And this is a paid program. I'm not sponsored by them, but I use it because what happens is a lot of people do not know this, but Windows Update does not update your drivers automatically for all of them. So you look for this one that says iobit.com. I'll put a link down to the thing below. I really recommend this. It'll install and keep your drivers up to date. It'll check across all of them, makes your system run better. Just another good option. Check the link in the description below on how to do that. So we're gonna install this real quick. And then after that, I'm gonna show you. So basically Windows is set up and ready to go. Once you've installed your updates, you've installed your GeForce, you've updated all your drivers using Drive Booster Pro 7. At this point in time, this PC is ready to play with. But we're gonna do one other thing, which is we're gonna set the timings for your 3600 megahertz RAM and just make sure everything is good there. So let's go take care of that now. So we're gonna reboot. When it comes up, you're gonna get a BIOS screen here in just a second. Once this pops up, and you're gonna wanna hit delete or the delete key, which you'll see briefly. That brings up the BIOS. Now over here on the left-hand side, This is to set your memory to 3600 megahertz. So go ahead and hit XMP and make sure it says profile 1. So you'll see this down here on the left. You'll see it's nice and yellow and ready to go. And then hit save and exit. Yes. And then now your memory is set for 3600 megahertz. Okay, so we have a graphics driver. We have our Windows updates. We have 3600 megahertz RAM. It's time for the last thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is let's run a quick Cinebench R20 and see how this baby performs. Okay guys, so we got everything installed. Let's see how this performs. We're gonna see just under load real quick, just a quick Cinebench just to see how this goes. So you can see I've already run this once. That's pretty dang good. It's above a Threadripper 1950X. We just wanna see what our thermals and stuff are like. So we're running this now. There it goes. And then I'm using IQ just to see what it is. Look at that, package temperatures right there, sitting at 66 as it goes through there, 69. So again, keeping that 3900 nice and cool, no problems there. It's getting up to 70. Like I said, we're like, again, very, very nice, cool temperature, and 7188. So this might get into the high 70s at the most, but nice and cool, given where we are for a 3900X, which is plenty of power to run 1440p. Let's see, what did we get accomplished today? Well, we told you about the ideal build for the H1. We built the H1. Oh, and that's right, we tested the H1. You can see overall, we got some really good Cinebench scores and some nice cool thermals. Now, let's close it out. Well, that is it for Robeytech today. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments below. Are you going to be getting an NZXT H1? Are you going to build it yourself, or are you going to get a pre-built from NZXT Build? What do you think about the case? Let us know all of that in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, be sure to slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a new video. Also, head on over to mixer.com/Robeytech and give us a follow over there for our live show every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. And be sure to drop us a follow over on Twitter and Instagram over at Robeytech. Also check us out over on Facebook because your parents are there at facebook.com/Robeytech. And finally, if you want to hang out with a lot of like-minded techies, have questions about builds, or want to get some technical help or build suggestions, check the description below for the Robeytech Discord link. It's a great and active community just waiting for you to be a part of it. Thank you so much for watching. Now go build your own PC, or maybe just watch some more videos of us doing it, like that Dan A4 SFX V4.1 build you can check out right here. I have no GUIs on mine.